welcome to Uncut with Lucia. My name is Lucia Matuonto, and welcome back to another discussion panel here in the RV Book Fair.
I'm Pat Backley. Today we're meeting with two amazing authors to discuss writing for our youth. We have Aleksandra Tryniecka. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, so forgive me. The author of Banky and the Worms, The Christmas Story. Welcome, Aleksandra.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be here today with you. So I'm an assistant professor at Marykiej Skłodowska University. I love literature and I love the 19th century novels, but also I love children's novels. And here I am with my two literary characters, the Banky Princess and Banky, who came with me.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. That was a great introduction. And I love your characters. They're so cute. You're very clever.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. They are so cute. And you know, there is something that Aleksandra says that is, she wishes us a bankful day. Instead of saying, have a bankful day, have a bankful day. That means that it will be a beautiful day. Yes, that's correct.
Yes. A very bankful day. Yes. And today we have a very bankful meeting, and I'm honored to be here in this bankful company. Definitely.
Wonderful. And we are also joined by Jacqueline Kopito. Jackie is the author of Twintastic. So Jackie, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you. So I usually say have a twintastic day because I'm a twin and I'm an author and I wrote the book Twintastic for tweens. So I always end my emails, have a twintastic day.
That is a coincidence, yes, Pat? Because, you know, we are trying to put people who have something in common together. And really, Aleksandra always says have a bankful day, and Jackie says have a twintastic day. And I didn't realize this before this moment. So this was a great coincidence.
Oh, that's fine.
That's great. And you're both very authentic and lovely, which of course appeals to children hugely. So thank you both for those introductions. Now, to break the ice, let's just talk a bit about what started you off. Aleksandra, as a child, did you always have a big imagination?
Thank you so much. Well, I wonder I did, because I always lived somewhere between our world and the world from my imagination, from literature. And I always wanted to be a writer, to create stories and then to dive into the stories and live within them. And I think I spent half of my childhood just looking for the wardrobe from the Chronicles of Narnia. So I think that it was a kind of a healing experience to live between these two worlds, to somehow dive into the magical world and then add a piece of it to our reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that she's very creative. By what she's been posting on Twitter, I see that she's doing a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aleksandra. And what about you, Jackie?
Well, I always like to write, and I started writing for the Twins magazine and Chicken Soup for the Soul. And then, but I also like the magical world as well. So I just always like to explore that. So my characters also have magical powers, which I thought were a lot of fun to write about. And just growing up, I always like to read and write. Yes. And I originally started writing all nonfiction for Chicken Soup for the Soul, and then as time went on, I wanted to write something about being a twin, but I wanted it to be fiction. So I kind of just fell into writing my book as things evolved. Then I wanted the protagonists to have magical powers, and so it kind of just all evolved that way. when my book came out.
I'm rather envious that you're a twin. I always wanted to be a twin, and failing that, I wanted to give birth to twins, but I've achieved neither of those. So I'm rather envious, and I'm sure there's lots of people in the world like me. I just have a burning question: does your twin also write?
No, she doesn't write. She's actually a social worker.
Okay.
But we love being twins. She's my best friend. I mean, we speak like 3 times a day. I mean, she always has my back, and we never get jealous of one another. We're always happy for each other. I mean, we always had the attitude, if she made the soccer team, or if she had a date and I didn't, or if she got a better grade than me, we always thought, well, at least it's happening to one of us. So yeah.
How lovely. So a really healthy relationship, which is wonderful. Which I think is what I've always envisaged. Sorry, Lucia.
No, sorry. I interviewed both Amy and Jackie for the carpooling with Lucia. They together, they are so cute and they get along very well, because I was trying to gossip, did you fight? Or did you have to say, what do you mean? In the same guy, and I said, no, everything was good, everything was perfect. And I said, wow, that's nice. And Jackie is a twin specialist or a twin expert.
Twin expert, yes. We also think alike. Can I give you an example? So not too long ago, it was my mother's birthday. And so I went to CVS, a card store where there were like 1,000 cards to choose from. I live in New Jersey, and my twin sister lives in Connecticut, where there are like 1,000 cards to choose from. And my mother called us up and said, girls, you sent me the exact card. And It wasn't like the first time either. So we tend to think a lot alike. Yeah, it's crazy.
And are you identical, Jackie?
Yes, we're identical. I'm 6 minutes older. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. So when you were growing up, did you have fun teasing people about being each other?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we did a little bit of that. Like in high school, we switched classes once. She had a biology test and I had a study hall, and I'm sorry, she needed to study for a test and I had biology, and so she had biology, I had a study hall. And so we switched so she could study for her test and I went to her biology class. And so she got to study, and it worked out. And I think some of the kids knew, but the teacher didn't know.
Oh,
so
wow.
It came in handy at times. Yeah.
So you've probably got lots of experiences like that you can weave into your stories, which is wonderful.
Oh, I did. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and we also, we feel each other's pain and happiness. Like we just like, could I share a story? I'm going to share a story. Once when my sister had breast cancer about 3 years ago, and she's completely fine now. And she had surgery, and the morning of her surgery, I was woken up with excruciating pain on the right side of my chest, and it was like I was going through it with her. And then the entire time, it was like the most incredible excruciating pain I ever felt, and it was just like for a minute, but it was really crazy. And then during the entire time she had radiation, she started in the beginning of the summer, and I felt like a sensation, a warm sensation over my chest. And then at the end of the summer, she said, I'm done and with my radiation. And then I never felt that sensation again. It was really weird. I was really going through it with her.
I mean, that must have been strangely comforting for you both, I would have thought.
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So it was
that's a lovely story. Thank you for sharing. Now, Aleksandra, what inspired you to write Banky, the story of Banky and the Worms? Am I saying that correctly?
Of course. Yeah, the Worms. Yes, the Worms.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So the Worms are Banky's family, his aunt and uncle and his cousin. So what inspired me to write the story? Well, actually, the story is inspired by my real life and by the presence of my family, of my friends. And actually, Banky is also quite a significant figure for me because he's very much, he's very connected with the real life. So it started before 2019, but in 2019, the story was formed as a whole. And then I went for a conference to London, and there I spotted a mascot of a blue hippo. And he wasn't Banky, but he had this very specific expression on his face, like not very happy, not too sad, kind of joyful, but still critical. And I thought, like, I've never seen a mascot like this with such a face expression. It can be a wonderful story hiding behind it because it's such a non-obvious, ambiguous look. And I thought that it really approximates this mascot to us, the readers. I mean, everybody is a little bit happy, sad. Sometimes we have ambiguous feelings, emotions. So I took this blue hippo home, and then Banky originated as we know him. And well, the story was formed based on some of my life experiences. It involves some characteristics derived from my friends, from family, from myself. And well, it was also such a time. It was 2019, 2020, so it was a hard time. So I thought that, like, we've never needed magic so much like now. And I thought I need to complete this project and just create Banky and his story and just share it with the readers and introduce some Bankyful goodness. And because we all needed that. So that's how the story originated.
Can you show us?
Such a lovely thing. That's
show
lovely.
On the video closer? Can you show them a little bit closer?
Of course. Banky, what do you think? Would you like to come closer?
Yes, please.
This is Banky, my literary child. And actually, I made Banky and the Banky Princess on the 31st of August, 2021. I was waiting for the book to be published, and in the meantime, I took a thread and a needle, and I just sat down and I created Banky and the Banky Princess. And right now, I am in the process of creating Plum and Rodney. So they will join Banky and the Banky Princess. So here is the Banky Princess. She's dressed in her summer dress because they have different dresses for winter, for summer, just like in the novel. And they are dressed exactly like in the novels. So here they are. But yeah. And Banky is dressed in a festive way today because it's a special occasion we're having. So they really couldn't wait to meet all of you.
They're so cute. You're very clever to have created such characters that will really appeal to children because they are still quite cuddly, aren't they? Despite the fact that they're very beautiful, children will still want to hug them. Yeah.
Oh yes, I love cuddling to Banky and the Banky Princess. They are cuddly, and also I wanted to create the characters who would be very relatable. So in a way, Banky is an imperfect character, but he's always striving to be good, to be kind, to be noble. And we know that it's not easy, that everybody is imperfect, but the most important is to keep trying. So just wanted to create a character that would be relatable and somehow liberate the readers from this feeling that we have to be perfect. Because nowadays it's kind of everywhere, this feeling that we need to fulfill some expectations, be perfect, or have supernatural powers. And Banky doesn't have any supernatural powers, but he does supernatural things from his heart. So
that's so good. And can I just ask, Aleksandra, what age group is this going to appeal to most?
Thank you so much. So I think when I was writing the story, I just took a look at the story afterwards and discussed it with my publisher, with my family and friends, with myself, with Banky, and we thought, well, it would be if I think that everybody from the age of 4 up to age of 13 definitely will enjoy the story. But I think that this book is for every reader of every age because it's quite a long novel. illustrated but long, because I really wanted the readers to dive into the story. And I think that it's for every reader who feels young at heart and believes in magic coming from the heart.
That's lovely. It sounds as though it's the kind of book that adults will enjoy reading to their children, you know, which is, I think, that's such a gift if you can write a book that appeals to both age groups. So that I remember when my daughter was little, having to read certain books over and over and over and over again. And if you dared to skip out a few sentences, she always knew.
Oh, yes.
In her head, she knew the book inside out. So I can imagine that your book will become like that, very loved by children.
I had the same experience with my mom when we were reading the Chronicles of Narnia. We've read it like many times, and I remembered every sentence.
Yes.
Quite a relatable experience.
Oh, thank you so much, Aleksandra. Lucia, it's your turn now.
Yeah, so Jackie, Twintastic is loosely inspired by the fact that you yourself are a twin. And what inspired you to write this novel for young adults?
It's for like tweens, but anyone could really read Twintastic. And I just wanted, you know, I was inspired because Amy and I, that's my twin sister's name is Amy. And we just had this really strong bond. And, you know, we would get in some trouble when we were younger, and through our daily grind of middle school and the mean girls and the first crushes who probably didn't even know we existed. I just thought all these memories gave me a few ideas for Twintastic. And also then I added, you know, the magical powers, because, you know, who doesn't like cool magical powers? And so plus I also added like the exploration of family dynamic and trust and friends, and also the consequences of misuse of power, which is also really important for tweens to know, you know, and just because you have the power doesn't mean you should use it all the time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any questions about it, Pat?
No, I just think it's fascinating. I can just imagine how much inspiration you've got to draw on. You know, the two of you have obviously lived your life, and both as children and adults, so you can kind of weave in lots of those different themes. You'll probably have a sequel of six volumes, I should think, because what I find with myself, once I start writing something, the ideas just come flooding in, and then you end up writing much more than you expected to. And I think for both of you, that will be the case, both for Aleksandra and you, Jackie, that now you've started, that's it. The floodgates are opened. There'll be
absolutely
coming.
Yes, funny you mentioned that, because I now just finished my second book, Twintastic in Miami. So now the girls are in Miami with a whole new set of problems and issues and all that. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. Well, I shall look forward to reading. Both your books. Now, moving on, the next heading is Writing for Youth. Aleksandra, you work in a university, so you're not particularly surrounded by small kids. What's your writing process when it comes to writing for children? How are you able to get inside the mind of a child, or do you just draw from your own experiences as a child?
Oh, thank you so much. So I mean, to be honest, I still feel partly as a child. I mean, I think everybody does. And I try to just let this part of my personality be present, even when I work at the university, because I think that it always helps to look at students, at everybody in this way too, and then we are becoming kinder and more understanding. And I can relate to this type of thinking of children. For example, there are many passages in the novel where Banky is asking quite interesting, unusual questions, but they are connected with this childlike world. For example, I had an experience I encountered. I was on my holiday, and I heard a conversation between mom and her daughter, and this is how children think, and it's very clever. And Banky thinks in a similar way. So I heard them discussing a ride in a car, there was like an entertainment kind of ride in a car, and mom said, but we've already been in this car, in this type of car. And the girl said, not in the red one, mom, it was green. So this is the type of thinking, and it makes a lot of sense. And well, I try to let this part of my personality be, let it float. And then Banky and the characters guide me, and I try to answer the questions I always had in my mind, and let out of these perspectives that I have. And indeed, it is quite a different writing process from what I do while writing academic works. I just finished editing my second book. It's an academic book, but the process was quite different. It was even yeah, very different. And here I just allow myself to ask any question I ever wanted and just come up with a genuine answer, just like a child, because I think that children are very genuine and very honest, and I just wanted Banky to be like that too.
Mm-hmm. It's not easy to write for kids. Yeah.
No. That's so interesting that you draw inspiration from listening to children, because I agree, they're so unspoiled, aren't they? The world hasn't touched them with all of the problems and things. They're just living in this rather lovely world where they're small and everything looks big and beautiful. And yeah, I that's really interesting that's how you get your inspiration.
And they ask really wonderful questions, and they have wonderful perspectives. Sometimes we adults are scared to articulate these perspectives, and they make a lot of sense, actually. So I wanted Banky to come up with all these questions, with all these statements that he makes.
That's so good, because children will be able to relate to that, won't they? They will find that really, really interesting. Can I just ask you a question? You don't have to answer it, but do you find it more fun writing about Banky than doing academic writing?
So honestly, I find this will be an honest answer. I find both of these equally fascinating. What I find less fascinating is editing of academic works. So and I think it's fascinating on different levels. So Banky and the Ones, it allows me to dive into the world of magic that I really want to bring into this world, and I believe that it works like this, that whatever we write down, we create, it comes back to our reality. That's why it's so responsible and beautiful to be a writer. At the same time, I think that academic writing helps me to develop myself deeply. And I also love English language. I love studying history. I specialize in the history of literature. So I just find it fascinating that I have this opportunity to do my research. But then the editing part of the academic work is definitely less encouraging. But after that, it's all better.
And don't you think we're all very blessed that we've been given this opportunity to be authors? I mean, it's such a blessing, because we can put our thoughts into our writing, whether in fiction or non-fiction. We can still tell the world how we think the world should be, and that, I think, is a great joy. Thank you, Aleksandra. That's great. Thank you. Lucia, it's your turn now.
So, Jackie, you have kids yourself. I know. I think you have 3 kids.
Two.
Okay.
2 boys. Yeah.
So your book is set in the 6th grade. So how do they play a role in your writing process when writing for kids? I'm sure they give you some tips.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, because one of the twins in the book is named Jordan, and she has a boyfriend, Jackson, and it's pretty much like my younger son and how he talks and thinks. So yeah, he was a huge inspiration for the character Jackson. They definitely played a part. And both my boys always say to me, Mommy, I wish especially when they were younger, Mommy, I wish I was a twin. Mm-hmm. And they would always see my sister and I together. And especially in new situations, I always had a twin. So like, it was never such an issue. I was never nervous about walking into a room by myself because I actually had my twin, where my boys would be like, nervous or, scared at times, and they'd be glued to my leg. And so it was interesting because I never really had to go through that. And so I saw, it's it makes life a little easier sometimes to walk in with your twin.
Mm-hmm. And are they participating also on Twintastic in the Twintastic in Miami?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. Yes, a little bit. Yes. So, yeah, it's been really fun to write, and I'm excited to put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I was really interested when you said that being a twin meant that you never had to be scared walking into a room on your own, because that's not something I'd ever thought about. But hearing you say it makes absolute sense, because you've always got your best buddy by your side, haven't you? That's a wonderful thing. That's made me even more wish I was a twin. But it's a bit late now, so it's not going to happen. So I just have to live vicariously through you and your Twintastic books. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. That's great. Aleksandra, your book is set at Christmas time, which is obviously a very magical time anyway. How important is the concept of magic in your book? Because I know you said that Banky doesn't have magic powers, but just the whole concept of magic.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to approach the concept of magic from a different perspective, more Christmas-like perspective. I believe that Christmas is a universal event for everybody, because it's about being kind and sharing. And that's enough to have a wonderful Christmas. And that's the main concept. So I wanted to create the world of magic. Like Banky, he does not have a supernatural power, but he has his heart. And all the magic comes from his heart when he makes a wish for somebody else. And this is the hardest, because during Christmas, he has to learn that it's not only about gifts and receiving and waiting for the gifts, but also he will learn how difficult it is to wish for others and how to really do it with all your might so that it will come true. And Banky and the Worms, I hope that it shows that this kindness, this genuine wishing for others, wishing them well, wishing them to make their dreams come true, will always come back, and it will create supernatural, amazing, beautiful, magical situations. This genuine kindness. It's like a snowball of goodness just rolling, and more is happening.
That creates a wonderful image, a snowball of goodness. What a wonderful image. I'm sure you already have, but that would make a wonderful image in your book, a snowball of goodness.
Thank you so much. Banky loves building snowmen. In the book, he builds a snowman. When he's frustrated, he tries to let go of his emotion, because the book is about learning how to deal with our worst emotions too. So when he's frustrated, he's just walking around the house and just rolling the snowball, and he creates this huge snowman, and he feels better, like all the bad energy just disappeared, and he created something beautiful. And in this novel, he will have two snowmen, a huge snowman. They are standing in the living room window and just blocking the light, but everybody adores them. And he just comes outside and makes sure that they are warm on Christmas night.
Oh, that's so lovely. That's so lovely. Isn't it funny how snowmen are universally loved? I mean, you can probably tell by my accent that I'm English, although I live in New Zealand. I didn't emigrate here till I was 59. But living in England, obviously, we got a lot of snow. And my daughter adored making snowmen. You know, the tiniest bit of snow, we had to rush outside and gather all this mucky, horrible old snow together and somehow concoct a snowman. And it's a very universal love,
yes,
isn't it?
Me too. I've never grew out of snowman. Every winter I built around 12 snowmen or 13.
Oh wow.
This winter I had 11, I think. And and even my students, after the pandemic, I said, like, let's go outside and build a snowman, even if we are grown-ups, and we're just having a great time together. Or during the pandemic, I said, let's build a snowman, each of us separately. You will send me pictures, we will have a gallery, and this way we will feel warm together, better, but everything will be okay. Because snowman also, to me, a snowman symbolizes normality, happiness, childhood, just normal peaceful life.
Yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful story. That's a really lovely story. I would imagine that your students are very excited about your books, are
Thank
they?
you so much. I mean, honestly, I didn't tell them because I didn't want to tell everybody like, oh, I wrote a book, because my task is to support them on their journey and to praise them. But they found it out. And now we are supporting each other. They are also having many talents and writing their own pieces. And I just feel so grateful for their support. And I also support them. I think that it's beautiful that we are both creating and sharing. So this is the passion we discovered with this book by chance.
That's wonderful, and I'm sure they find you incredibly inspiring. You
So,
know,
and me too. I think we are just for each other. We're just mutually inspiring each other.
Oh, that's wonderful. And the thing is, Aleksandra, they will remember you all their life. You know,
Thank you.
and I'm 71 now, and I still remember the handful of teachers and older people that really inspired me in my life. So those kids will grow up and they will always look back fondly of their time they spent with you and think, oh, she was a wonderful woman. She taught me this and this and this. So good for you. That's great.
Yeah,
Lucia,
I will also remember them. I wish sometimes I even wish, of course, I have a really great luck with students because they are really hardworking and passing all the exams. So I'm very proud of them. Sometimes I just wish not that I wish them bad, but I wish we would stop and just stay longer at this period, this stage together.
I'm jealous because Jackie is and because you, Aleksandra, was making snowmen. I had to because I grew up in a very warm place. Okay, when I was living in Pittsburgh, I had a chance to enjoy the snow. But now I will ask you, if this is for Jackie, your characters share a secret power, as you were telling us before. Why is it so important to keep magic alive for kids?
Oh, I mean, I think magic is just so great and fun, and your imagination could go in so many directions, and you could use it for good and bad, but in my books I just try to use it for the good. And and so I love magical powers. Absolutely.
We need magic. I think our lives are like, I remember when someone told me that Santa didn't exist. I was so frustrated and I want to cry because I want to believe in Santa. So when my sister, she was born, I was 8 years old, and I was avoiding, like I was making sure that anyone was going to tell her that Santa did not exist. So I kept it.
He does exist. He lives in the North Pole. You can write him an email or a mail. Yes, he's there.
Absolutely, I agree. I remember when Lucy, my daughter, came home from school. I think she was 10, and she's an only child, so she had no one else to burst her bubble about anything. And she came home one day and she was very quiet. And I said, darling, what's wrong? She said, all the girls in my class say that Father Christmas doesn't exist. And she was very upset. And I said, darling, I said, that's up to them to think that. I said, but you carry on thinking what you think, because won't they be fed up if Father Christmas doesn't exist and he brings them no presents on Christmas Day? So she went to school the next day and said, my mum said, if you don't believe, he will bring you any presents. It's a hard thing to dent a child's dreams and illusions, I think, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, Aleksandra, what do you hope that your readers will take away from your book?
Thank you so much. So my greatest dream was, when I was writing the novel, I wanted to create the world where I would feel great, I would feel comfortable, I would feel loved, I would feel at peace. And the characters would be like my friends. And I hope that my readers can also find their home in Banky's land. And I also hope that they can become Banky's lifelong friends. This would make me so happy if if they would like to carry on Banky, take him with them for a lifetime journey, and always come back to his fairyland and feel that it is their forever home.
Oh, that's such a lovely dream, and I'm quite sure it will happen. I mean, I haven't read your book yet, but I will now, and I'm quite sure it will stick. I'm quite sure it will stick in their minds, the same as the books that we read as children and loved. You know, we can still go back to those books, can't we? And they still touch us in the same way.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely,
Yes.
and on many layers.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great.
As a mom yourself, how important is the educational aspect of creating children's books?
Oh, I think, I mean, it's extremely important to educate the children, and always to read and learn, and knowledge, I think, is very important, and, you know, to try their best. And I think it's so important to read books as opposed to watching television a lot of times. You know, I spent many hours reading. We only had one television in our household, and we could only watch it for a certain amount of time. And I mean, my parents were strict in that way, and I'm so glad, because I think it was more important to read books than to watch, like, you know, nonsense on television. So I think educating the children are extremely important.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. Books can teach us way more than, and today is even worse, because there are so many ways to get distracted with so many internet and shows, and, you know, kids, I think, even like if you read a book, you feel more relaxed than have so many information all the time that you get a little bit confused. At the end of the day, you cannot absorb everything that you see. So books was also part of my life since I was a kid, and with the books I was able to travel to amazing places. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And you could always go back and reread again, you know, what really like touched your heart. And I always think that's so important. And I would always reread books, and many books would be inspiring and cheer me up. And it was just, you know, well thought out books are extremely important.
Mm. I agree entirely. I grew up reading. Obviously, I grew up in the 1950s when television was in its very early stages, and so the library was my go-to place. And I'm so grateful that I had that, because, well, it's changed me as a person. And I feel very sad now when I talk to young people. Oh, I never read a book, they say very proudly. And I just think, oh, this is so sad. They sit for hours glued to their screens, but they're not seeing the real world. They're just seeing the artificial world that everyone wants to portray, of how glamorous they are, how rich they are, you know, blah, blah. And it just makes me incredibly sad. So we're all doing our bit, aren't we, to change that, to kind of encourage new readers, which is great. Aleksandra, when you're writing for the younger generation, you have to take into account the parents as well, because obviously the parents generally are the ones that are going to buy the books, or at least encourage their children to read certain books. And so the feedback you get from adults is obviously very important. So how's feedback been with your book? Have you had much feedback so far? Has it been published for very long? I'm sorry, I feel bad. I don't.
No, thank you so much for your question. So it was published, Banky and the Wolves, the Christmas story was published on the 13th of October 2021.
Okay, so very new. Very new.
Thank you. And I'm very happy when I receive some messages from the readers, when I just really love, because I think that a book without a reader is completely incomplete. The readers complete the book. They offer a part of the soul to the book, and then the book is complete. So it's very important to me to hear what they think. And recently, I was honored to hear from a reader who wrote to me, I wish I had a childhood friend like Banky when I was a child.
Oh.
And I was like, my goodness, this is my dream coming true. And I honestly, I also wish I had a friend like Banky. So it's like now I have a friend like Banky, and part of my child like me is living through these stages again in a very positive way. So I think it's beautiful when the readers are connecting, and I just really hope that both adults and children will be able to feel happy and comfortable within the pages of the story. And there are also some layers of reading the story. I think it's read differently when one is a child and differently when one is an adult. There are different layers in it. Like I remember some books, I returned to them years later and I discovered these different layers. And I think that in this one, I hope that they can be also discovered by the readers. Usually the readers are asking about Banky. They want to talk with Banky. They would prefer to talk with Banky more than me. and I think it's great. Like everybody asks about Banky and the Banky princess, and here they are. And I'm so happy that I could help them to come into the world and just be a part of this literary adventure.
Oh, that's wonderful, and the very fact that people are writing to you as if Banky was a real person that's the magic. That's the magic that you've woven into your book to make him believable. You know, because that's the hardest thing, to make a character believable. Is just wonderful. Well done. Well done.
Thank you. While writing this, I'm writing the second part of Banky's adventures now. And while writing the second part, I have my YouTube channel where Banky and the Banky Prince have their summer adventures in the meantime. So the readers can connect with Banky and the Banky Prince through the YouTube channel and just go on holiday with the Bankys while I'm working on the second book.
Good for you. And can I just ask you, is it based, I'm sorry, I feel very bad that I haven't read it, but is it based on a real country or a make-believe country that they live in?
Oh, it's a very good question. Thank you so much for asking it, because it's very important. So actually Banky lives in the fairyland of Walmland, and within the story he writes his own novel about a fairyland of Bankyland where the Banky princess lives. So the question is if they worlds would meet somehow. This is another layer of the story. And Walmland is a fairyland as well as Bankyland, but in the book I created a map, and actually on the map you can see that there are actual places, such as we have Greenland, Faroe Islands, and Walmland is located somewhere between these places. And yeah, and in the novel we can learn that only the readers who believe in Banky will be able to locate Walmland physically and visit him. So
that's very clever and very magical. I'm so impressed. That's so good. And I just noticed, is your book a hardcover book?
Yes, we have a hardcover version too, and ebook and
that's very sensible for a children's book to have a hardcover, because it makes it very durable. I mean, on my bookshelf in my lounge, I'm in my office now with just my working books, but in my lounge where I have my lovely books, I've got some very old books, and the books I had as a child, like Heidi and the Water Babies and all those ones, but they're all hardbacks, and they would never have lasted 70 years if they were paperbacks. So
and I love hardbacks.
Very sensible of you, because it also makes it seem like more of a treasure when it's a hardback, I think.
I think they are elegant. Hardbacks are very elegant.
Yes,
and it's like, as you said, as a treasure, they are like a gift.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Lucia, I've spoken too much. It's your turn.
That's okay. So, my lovely Jackie, how has the feedback been with your book? And please, can you show us as well your book, because we are curious. I read your book, but I think Pat and Aleksandra are curious to see your book.
Oh, okay. So my book is Twintastic.
Oh,
Oh,
You're
that's
twins.
nice.
And
yes.
so one twin is like into fashion and art, and the other twin, and she's very sociable. And then the other twin is into science, and she's very reserved. And so they're very different. And so it's basically about Alex and Jordan. And um, one day while cleaning the attic, the twins come across a dusty old diary that once belonged to their great grandma. And then the next thing the twins know, the magical powers once possessed by Rose and her twin sister have now been passed on to them. And so suddenly, using only their thoughts, Alex and Jordan can communicate with each other and move objects. And they decide to use their secret powers to help save Ace, their parents' family struggling restaurant. Otherwise, their family could be out on the street. And at the same time, they deal with the daily grind of middle school, first crushes, tennis lessons, and the mean girl. And using their powers, they have a bake sale, enter a science contest, tutor their friends. But will it be enough to rescue the restaurant and save their family from ruin? So there's all these adventures that they try to do to concoct, money and to win things so they could help their parents using their powers.
And I think I have how can I say that? I have a feeling that you are very into clothes and beauty, and Amy is more the scientific part. I don't know. I have the feeling. So
you're so right, Lucia. Yes, like Amy. As a matter of fact, funny you mention this, I'm into more fashion and clothes and things like that, where my sister is not at all. And so when I go shopping and she likes something, and we'll Zoom, she'll be like, oh, wait, I love your outfit. And so where then I go and get it for her, so I'm also like her personal shopper, because we're basically the same size. And then, and then I send it to her. So sometimes I just get two of a few items because I know she's just going to like it. Yes. Very good observation, Lucia. Yes.
I'm into both, so I know them.
Exactly. You do. You so do.
And I just listening to you talk about the topics in your book, you're so clever, because all of those topics are things that kids can relate to. They're all very normal things that will have affected those kids' lives in some way. That's very clever. You haven't made it unimaginable. It's great. So the magic is the magic, but related to normal everyday things that they can
exactly. Yes. Yes.
Very clever. Very clever.
Yeah. Thank you. And then they learn about different things through the diaries from their great grandmother. So they're constantly learning and discovering new powers.
That's so clever, because that will make all the kids reading it think, oh, maybe my ancestors had superpowers. So you're opening up a whole new world of imagination, which is really what writing should be about. That's what we should be doing, shouldn't we? Yeah. We should be inspiring people to think out of the box, out of that particular book, but thinking somewhere else. So well done. I'm very impressed. Actually, I'm very impressed with both of you. You're both fabulous. Aleksandra, what can we expect from you next? I know you said you're writing another book about Banky and his holiday, but perhaps you could tell us a bit more about that and any of your other plans.
Thank you so much. So the newest book that is coming, I think it's coming September, October, one of its days. It's the more academic book. It will be titled The Literary Portraits of Victorian and Neo-Victorian Novel. Literary portraits of Neo-Victorian and Victorian women in the novel, the reader's guide, and it is an academic work, but I tried to transform it in such a way that every literature enthusiast would enjoy reading it. So it combines this academic aspect with the reader's expectations, and I hope that we will meet somewhere halfway and they will enjoy reading it. And there's a lot about fashion too, because I'm fascinated by fashion. This is what I think. I also love fashion, so it brought me closer to the literary portrait of the Victorian woman. because I think that through fashion we can learn a lot about society. And there is the whole part dedicated to the 19th century fashion and how it's represented in the modern fiction, which tries to return to the 19th century and to re-examine it. And then there are some literary portraits of women connected with the social and historical background, the rise of the novel, how women were connected with this idea of household reading. And I just hope that the readers will enjoy it. And there's no Banky in this book, but Banky was helping me. And the second part of Banky's adventures will take place in the summertime. And all the characters from the first part will meet there, and there will be some more characters. And Banky will have to solve another task. He's always having a task, but a task which is connected with our tasks and relatable tasks. So he will have something to deal with, and he will be on a new quest. And I hope that the readers will be able to fully relate with that too, because it's quite universal. And he will have a great summer. So I hope. And also there will be an audiobook of Banky and the Wands coming in autumn. So
that would be good.
This is the plan.
Could I just talk about your academic book for a moment, because I'm absolutely fascinated by that, and I'd love you to send me the link when it comes out.
Thank you so
because
much.
in my books, in my novels, I talk about Victorian women quite often, because I write some historical novels, but also I've just started to write my ancestors series. So they're fiction, but they're based on the lives of my ancestors. And to delve into the 19th century has been fascinating. Just to learn about the social aspects of how those women lived, and what a hard time women had, particularly poor women like my ancestors were. So yeah, I would love the link to that book.
Thank you so much. And yes, thank you. I should read your books. I should read them. I'm so sorry that I haven't. But right now, I think we have something that really connects us. And I agree. That's what I wanted to. While writing this book, I tried to search wherever I could, look for literary portraits of women, and also the portraits of historical women who somehow succeeded through all these difficulties. Because I thought that, again, we need some hope. And of course, I tried to present the historical social background in detail. And then I really found these historical figures that were fascinating. They were really absolutely out of that world. and I hope that it will also help us to build this hopeful, positive perspective that it's possible to succeed, to remind oneself in all circumstances.
I think your academic writing will fascinate me. And I often think our ancestors, women from the 19th century and earlier, how proud they would be to see us women all sitting together, all successful authors, chatting with freedom, with our own lives. We're not just sitting at home doing our embroidery, waiting for our husband. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams.
Absolutely, and even though we are in such a different situation, our placement, we are still facing the same problems in terms of, I think fears, technological fears, or moral problems. They are the same, even though we have so much more freedom. The problems appear to be like in a circle all the time, the same issues. And this was really fascinating to me, to find out how different and how similar we are.
Yes, I think human beings learn nothing from history, do we?
Yes, that's true.
Over and over again.
Yes, I agree with that.
Oh, I could talk to you ladies for hours. This is wonderful. But now it's Lucia's turn.
Jackie, besides publishing Twintastic in Miami, which I'm so curious about, what else are you planning to do?
Well, I mean, it's really very time consuming finishing this book and editing it. So right now I'm just working on this. And then actually I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. One of the issues is, which I think is like a really important issue, is the social media. And one of the twins puts on a post where she gets a lot of backlash. So it causes like the girls to, you know, really want to get back at this person with their powers, but they learn that they're not going to, and that, you know, other people's opinions shouldn't matter. So, and that they just have to believe in themselves and, you know, really not pay attention to the nonsense that's on social media. So I think it's very relevant, especially for like young girls, because they go on Facebook and they could see everything that's going on. Like Pat said earlier, you know, the glamorous life and everything's so wonderful, and that's not really reality. So they really learn a lot that about social media and how other people's opinions shouldn't matter.
Yeah, and this theme is very, very important, Jackie, because there are so many problems happening because of social media, as we all know.
They get like bullied, you know, it's just terrible. It's terrible. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So I deal with that.
So it's good that you are coming up with this new book and being able to help this.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
So I hope so.
So all that we all need, all four of us now, is some fabulous publishing company, not publishing company, but publicist, who says, oh my God, these four authors write the most wonderful books. We must publicize it all over the world. Because that is, as an author, that's our hardest job, isn't it? Is marketing.
Yes.
You know, we write these fabulous books and then we have to try and persuade people to buy them. And that's really hard. I mean, I'm still writing books, but I would say now I spend probably more time marketing than writing, and I hate it. I don't like it very much, because I think as authors we're naturally not introverted, but we're generally quite, we don't like pushing ourselves out there. But suddenly, once you've written a book, you either get used to pushing it out there, or your book just festers on the shelves in Amazon, doesn't it? So I think, unless any of you are fabulous at marketing, in which case do pop over and see me in New Zealand and help me. That would be wonderful.
Actually, I'm very good in promoting other people's books.
You are, Lucia. Thank you. Yes. You totally are.
Yeah, but I had to promote mine books.
Exactly. That's the thing, you see. I think we're all good at promoting other people, but not so good at doing ourselves. So maybe we should form a little group where we actually support, you know, promote each other.
Oh, absolutely.
And then knowing that someone else is going to promote us, because for me that's the hardest bit. But anyway, very sadly, we've come to the end. That's all we've got time for today at this discussion panel of the 2022 RV Book Fair. It's been an absolute joy to meet you ladies. Thank you so much. I'm going to get straight on the internet now and try and buy your books. But thank you. It's been really good. Over to Lucia to finish us.
Yeah, so I would like to thank our Twintastic and Twintastics and Bankfuls guests for joining us today. So Aleksandra and Jackie, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights. We will have all of the information available on our magazine, The Relatable Voice, and also on our website, luciamatuonto.com. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you later next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.